Welcome to Web Development Lesson 6.6. In this video, we're going to explore a website called NYC Open Data, which provides users with data from various New York City agencies. Because the data is so massive, we need a way to kind of filter through that information. So let's get to it. So NYC Open Data is a website where you can find various pieces of information from various agencies. One in particular I'm going to focus on for this particular video is 311 calls, which are made every single day. So through this portal, NYC Open Data, you can actually retrieve real 311 calls that were made probably from the previous day. So when you go to this website, again, one of the things you can easily see is, we could get a JSON, an array of JSON information that has various pieces of information, such as the agency, descriptors. Again, it'll make more sense we actually see an example of the data, which, luckily enough, if you scroll down a little bit further, you actually get a snapshot of it. But I'm actually going to do it also through the JSON online editor, just to kind of show you that, here it looks like a spreadsheet, but in reality, it is an array of JSONs. So from this website, you might ask, well, how do I get to that JSON information? Well, you've learned about API calls. So NYC Open Data gives you that ability to request that information through an API call. So I'm going to copy this, go over here, paste it. This is your URL link to get to that information. Again, it might take a little bit. And while it's doing that, I'm going to pull up JSON Online Editor. Let's see. Yeah, sometimes it takes a little bit for it to come up, which is why in our example, you'll see that we actually copy and paste the data into our program. Doesn't take too much longer. There we go. All right, so I'm going to copy and paste this into our, let me delete this old one, JSON Online Editor, bring it on over. You can see we have 1,000 entries. These are not all the 311 calls from, let's see when we open one of these up. What date is it? 3/18. So this was from yesterday because this is being filled on March 19th. And as you can see here, it has latitude and longitude of the particular complaint, the agency that the complaint was filed to, what the complaint was, block driveway. What else do we see here? Incident zip, that might be interesting. So you can actually narrow it down a little bit as to where the complaint was made from. There's city, landmarks. Again, a lot of useful information, borough. So the idea here is, and I'm actually going to, because this is live information, or was live information, I'll take it from over here. I'm going to copy this data and place it in a data.js file. Again, we could make it a live link using that API call, but as you saw, it took a little bit for it to come up. And as you're developing, the last thing you want to do is have to, wait 20 seconds, 30 seconds every time you make a change because the data is being loaded. All right, so we've brought the data into this. We're still going to practice the idea of making an API call. So let's review a little bit of the code that you've learned in previous lessons. So through the use of jQuery, this library here, we're able to make requests through API calls relatively easy. We learned about using the AJAX setup to ensure that when we request data from a website through its API call, that the program waits for the data. Now, this getJSON is from the jQuery library, and it's actually the function that makes that request to the API call. Now, again, I could have put this right here, or what you may have learned in some previous videos was to do something like this, create a variable called link. and then just put the variable here. The reason I don't want to do that, again, as you noticed, the data, because it's so massive, it takes some time to load up. So again, because we're simply just testing things out, I've decided to take the data, put it in here. Now, the cool thing here is that we could still use the get JSON to pull data from within our own website. So we're going to adopt this just so that we continue using the get JSON as part of our process. What else have we done here? We have two different output elements, one for the actual like cards that we're going to develop for the 311 calls, and one to display the number of results. Because as you can see here in our for loop, we're developing the cards, grabbing the information from the array, and then using those keys from the JSON to display the complaint type, the borough, the incident zip. And then we're going to keep track of how many things we've actually, cards we've actually developed. Because that's a very common thing when you look at a website and you're searching for information or filtering information to tell you how many results came back. So this is what the website looks so far. Again, it is our, well, actually this, let me go ahead and refresh, and since we did bring in some new data. All right, so notice the data is a little bit different. That's because the original view that you had was actually from a previous day's data. But because this was a live video and actually brought in the data from yesterday, the complaints have changed. So we can see here we have 1,000 results, which matches perfectly with what our JSON online editor was showing, which is that we have 1,000 elements in the array. So now what we want to be able to do, because there are so many different complaints, we want to be able to kind of narrow it down for the user if they want. And I think one easy filter we could do is simply to filter by borough. So here's where the really cool part happens when it comes to, how do we add some extra functionality to this website that produces all the cards? Well, we want to just produce some of the cards. So I already grabbed the text box from our HTML. And what we're going to do here is we're going to copy some of the code from our init function, which produces all the cards. And we're going to simply paste it here. Now, if we left it like this, we would get the exact same result like we did on the web, on the load of the web page. What we want to do though now is to add an if statement. Remember, that's what an if statement does. It determines whether something should happen or not. And what we want to do is we want to determine if the particular data that we're looking at meets our criteria. And our criteria right now is the idea of the borough. So if complaints.borough equals that borough that the person types into the text box, well, let's go ahead and build a card with that associated borough. And that's it. It's really that simple. So once you've kind of mastered the idea of building cards for your data, the concept of filtering it is really just about adding an if statement. So let's see how that works out. So let's go here. Let's go ahead and refresh it. And let's go ahead and type in Queens. Oops. And it is case sensitive. So notice that all the boroughs are capitalized. So let's go ahead and hit capitalized. And there you go. So we have 183 complaints coming from Queens. Now let's go ahead and look at another one. Let's say the Bronx. 206. So again, this is a really cool feature where now you can actually filter by a particular borough. Now, just to kind of show you how quickly you can spin up another filter, let's go ahead and copy this functionality of the card, which goes from here to here. And let's filter by SIP. And in filter by SIP, let's just adjust the scenario a little bit, and I'm simply going to change the name of the box to zip. I'll change the name of the function to zip, and that's it. So from a UI point of view, now I should have two boxes, one to filter for the borough, one to filter by a specific zip code. Now let's see what happens on the JavaScript side. So if you recall, really the only thing that changes if I want to filter by something else is that the if statement changes. So what I'm going to do here is I'm simply going to copy this whole function that does filter by borough, paste it, change this to filter by zip, which matches the function name that we put up here for when we click on this button called search. And let's change this from borough to incident underscore zip. Now, the nice thing about this is that we already had these key values as part of our card, so it was easy for us to kind of reference, okay, how do we get the zip code? Well, it's called incident zip. And that should pretty much be it. Let's give it a whirl. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and choose one that I know has to exist because it's already here. So let's choose 11355. 11355, hit search. And let's see. Incident zip is not defined. Ooh, let's see, did I type something wrong? Oh, sure enough, copy and paste problem. That happens a lot. So please be careful when you copy and paste. Make sure you update anything that's from the previous example. So let's give it a whirl. One more. So let's do that. 11355, hit search. And as we can see here, there were a couple complaints in that particular neighborhood. So there was a blocked driveway, noise, illegal parking, noise. Honestly, at this point, if you wanted to, you could also filter by actual complaints. So let's say you wanted to know about all the different noise complaints in New York City. That could be something else that you perhaps type in. All right, so let's go back to our presentation. Let's review what we've done. So in this particular video, we explored NYC Open Data, which is a great place where you could get a lot of information about various agencies throughout New York City. We explored one particular agency, which is the one that handles 311 calls. Because the information was so massive, we wanted to be able to provide our users a way of filtering through that information. So through the simple use of an if statement, we were able to create a decision where we only added the cards that match the particular input that the user provided. In our case, we allowed the user to specify a borough or a zip to narrow down the complaints that were being used. So hopefully you're excited about being able to work with a lot of data and enjoy.